say, I just want to show myself to you. I just want you to know who I am and have trust and joy and faith in who I am. We talk about knowing God, right? And the importance of knowing God. And the great theologians will write books of theology, and they'll say, here are the 8 attributes of God, or whatever, give or take a few, right? Now think about it, guys. Is God really limited to those few attributes? See, my view of eternity, a part of it, is that God is going to send us into an eternal and exciting exploration of the infinite facets of his nature that we can't even begin to experience because we're not in situations where we can experience those things. The scriptures tell us that the angels look down and they're learning something about God by watching us. What are they learning? They never understood that God was gracious. And so when we're in heaven and we walk past the angels, they're going to look and say, man, grace of God. The grace of God. They're going to look at me and say, the grace of God. But imagine then that we're there as his children now to explore the worlds to come and to reveal to the worlds to come all the infinite and unbelievable, majestic attributes of God that will unfold. And we'll keep learning things about God as he takes us into new worlds and new spaces and new times and seasons. And I think, unbelievable. And here is God is doing this every day in our lives. It's not a test about provision. It's a test about, it's really an opportunity for us to get to know him. And when he does show himself like that, you think, I can trust him. So we were beginning to kind of learn this, and we were trying to pass this on, really. When you think about what does it mean to be a testimony? What does it mean to share Christ with somebody? Again, my concern is that we've reduced sharing Christ too much to ethical propositions, to theological debates, rather than kind of an unfolding of the glory of God, who you know. Well, Patricia and I then were asked to take a new assignment up to Davis, California, Northern California, to then become supervisors for all of the Navigator Collegiate Works in Northern California, from Chico all the way down to San Jose, to Berkeley, Stanford, and everything in between. But we kept kind of moving because these were all very, very different, very, very challenging environments. We used to kid the Stanford students, because there's an attitude on that campus. And, the old joke was, how many Stanford students does it take to change a light bulb? Well, just one. He reaches up, grabs the hold of the light bulb, and waits for the world to revolve around. But we continued down this path of the things that we had learned, and we began to pass it on to the students at Davis. Because again, at Davis, there were so many students that didn't know Christ and weren't interested. So one of the first things that we did was we said, look, what are you involved in? And I remember Wade and Jim and a couple of other guys, Chris. I was talking to these 3 guys one day, and I said, okay, what are you guys involved in? They said, well, we're involved in this fraternity. And I said, okay, what do you do? Well, we go to these meetings and things like this and other functions. I said, do you live in the fraternity house? He said, oh, no, we could never live in there. I said, why not? I mean, who's going to reach those people if you're not in there? So they covenanted the next year to live in the fraternity house. And it was really funny because they ended up being elected the president and the treasurer of the fraternity. And I said, how did you guys manage to do that? They said, well, at the end of the day, they figured we're the only 2 guys they could trust in the fraternity with the money and with the stuff in the fraternity. And so I said, okay, how many of these guys know Christ? How many are interested? Not many. So what we did was that we began to do some relational things, kind of inviting them over to our place, but we would go out with them, stuff like that. And eventually, about a dozen of them wanted to study the scriptures with us. Now this was the killer. The So we would start in, and we'd be 2 sentences into the conversation about the Gospel of John, and one guy said, "Why do you Christians do this?" And I go, what do you mean? Well, then he'd tell me about something that he'd seen on television or read in the paper, some scandalous thing that was going on. And we would kind of talk through that, and I would say, well, okay, I can see why you might not believe, or why that would be hard to believe. And I mean, I wouldn't want to be a Christian, if that's what being a Christian's about. But I said, is that how Christ is? And he said, well, what do you mean? Well, I said, let's look here. And let's look. And so we would go into and just look at the life of Christ in the book of John. What was really funny was about, again, it was a month, two or 3 months into this thing, their vocabulary changed. And they would still kind of bring these questions up about why Christians do this, but there were these Christians. They were themselves who were not Christians. And there was Dan, who was also not a Christian. He was their friend. He was helping them really learn the scriptures that they were really fired up about. And they were really learning to love Christ. They would be in there kind of rooting for Christ as he's taking on the Pharisees, and stuff like this. And it was interesting is that one by one, they all became followers of Christ without ever considering themselves Christians. And that began to teach me a lesson about what was happening in our society. And again, gosh, they were walking with God. They were studying the scriptures. They were praying. They were leading their friends to Christ. They would be every bit what you would expect a disciple of Christ to be, except what they call themselves. So, I'm just saying is that we're in a time like this again where we have to maybe think about what we say, how we say it, but at the same time never steer away from a fear that this is irrelevant. Our language may be irrelevant. Our language may not communicate. It may make us feel better to use sacred language. But, Christ spoke in the plain words of the day, didn't he? As did Paul. They used common terms taken out of the marketplace to communicate with people concepts that were totally foreign to them. And I think that's one of